Hey, Okie Tools here, and it is your lucky day. You get a threefer, or probably just going to be a twofer. I'm not going to make you sit through me lubricating disassembling and lubricating all of them. But this is another disassembly, lubrication, and reassembly ratchet video. I have three for you here in 1/2 inch, 3/8, and quarter. And this video is on Easco designed round head fine tooth ratchets. So on like this one, the 1/2 inch is a Napa brand, and these are proprietary marked Eascos, and then they were also made in for Craftsman, for Allen, for Armstrong, for KD. I mean, that list goes on and on. And a lot of the parts interchange between them. And there are a couple different designs to them, like the Craftsman used kind of an I-beam and then had a raised panel handle, kind of like their other product lines. And I kind of like these over that, just me personally, because I like the knurled handle and I like the round beam that goes down here. So that's just me. I like that design. So they were also made in a couple different designs, and that's kind of what I'm showing here today. Is a non-quick disconnect, just a standard drive ball to hold the socket on, check ball, and then the quick disconnect model, which has the button on the back to release the socket, move the check ball out of place, and release the socket. So as you can see, these are pretty well used. The 1/4 inch isn't. I mean, it's, you know, other than a little bit of box rash, I mean, it's almost new to me. A lot of the chrome's missing on the 3/8. The 1/2 inch, other than the selector plate, is in great shape. They ratchet real well, and after they lubricate, they're probably going to be like new. So the way you disassemble these is there's a snap ring that's in there, and you have to, or yeah, snap ring, and you have to use some, I like to use these here angled needle nose pliers that a friend on the forum sent me. There you go. So that's the selector plate, and it comes out like that. And then this is the main gear, and this is the center portion that when it works back and forth, when the selector plate moves on it, that actuates on it, that it moves back and forth, and it has a spring in the center of it that has 2 check balls on either side, and they work against the back of these pawls where there's some detents, and you see the double pawls, and work on the back of those detents, move the pawl either way on this here shaft for either one of them, and when it moves that way, it clicks them that way, so you can reverse it, and when it clicks that way, you can go ahead and tighten. So that's how that works. And I will tell you, this one is not bad to take apart because it only has 2 check balls and a spring, and it is a 1/2 inch drive, and it's real easy to take apart and everything. But I will tell you, when we get to the 3/8, I'll explain some more how that is an absolute beast to get apart, and I'll give you some pointers for how to put it back together. But this one wasn't so bad. So it's a little, I've already cleaned these up. Anything that you see on them is just like some oil that I put on there. No big deal. Just want to dry them a little. And now I like to use grease for mine. I've heard don't use those on ratchets at all, and I've heard don't use them on fine tooth ratchets, but I like to use it, so that's what I use. That's just me. Your mileage may vary. So I like to get just a little, just a very little. I do agree that it needs to be, if you're going to use it, it does need to be just a little. So I put that on there real good. Just a, you know, maybe a dab more. Nothing major, nothing major. And just make sure that it's good on those teeth, and those teeth look good. Those teeth look real good after cleanup. So get that real good in there, and then you come over here to the paws, and you go ahead and just do just a little bit, not a lot. And there's 1, and there's 2, and then go ahead and get this on there. Go ahead and get this worked over to the other side so I can get the others. That was a bit much on there. You can just wipe off the excess, nothing major. Just Just wipe off any excess that you think you got. So I think that's pretty good. I think they'll work pretty good that way. So that's ready to put back together. If you want to put some just on the selector plate, just, you know, because it's going to be riding in all those grooves and everything, just want to be doing that, that's fine. So that one's ready to go back together. You just drop the selector plate down in there, go ahead and put this on top, all lined up, and there they go. They just snap right in. So there's the snap ring in place, and pull on the drive to see it's all good in there. And then check your selector back and forth, make sure it's seated good, and then give her a ratchet. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Go ahead in the other direction. Oh, sounds awesome. So that's the 1/2-inch drive, the Napa branded version of the round head fine tooths. And then we'll go ahead and get to the Easco, the 3/8 version. This is the quick disconnect. So we'll go ahead and get back here, and you got the same situation with the snap ring. Head and just comes out like that, and there's your selector plate, and here's your snap ring. And go ahead and clean these up a bit. Like I said, I like to use oil on them, and I will explain to you now what I was talking about when I was talking about with the 1/2-inch. So anyways, this is the disconnect button as well as the center shaft, just like on the 1/2-inch, and it has a spring through the middle and 2 check balls just like that one, and then it also has another spring and a check ball that's larger going down here, and that operates this check ball, which holds the socket on. So when you depress, it sucks it in and allows you to take the socket off, put the socket on, and when you let it go, it holds it on place and comes back out. So there are more springs and more balls to deal with on this one, and it is much smaller, and you are going to have, it's going to be a pain in the ass if you're like me and you decide to take that apart to clean it and then put it back together. So my advice to you, if you're going to do this, is, and like I said, just like with the other, those check balls actuate against the pawls, and they hold in the detent to hold it into the proper position to go forward or reverse, whichever one you want to do, on these pins that they ride on. So anyway, or shafts that they ride on. So anyways, my advice to you, if you're going to be taking it apart and then reassembling it, is when you're reassembling it, is grease is your friend. And if you don't want to put grease on there, then you're going to have to find out some other way to do it. And there probably are other ways to do it, but this is the way I did it. So I put some grease on one of the check balls and put it into the center shaft. And then I put it in, you know, when it's pushed all the way in there and there's no spring tension on it, it goes in real easy. Put that in, and I made sure that one of the pawls and its shaft that it pivots on was in there, and I put it facing that side. So that ball is now pushed up against that pawl, against that detent. So it's not going to go anywhere if you do it right. So then you position the center shaft to where the other hole is pointing towards this open area, where if the pawl's not there, okay, before you put the pawl and the shaft in. Then you take some of the grease and you put using your needle nose, and you put the spring in there. And that holds it in place so it doesn't go flinging away or anything like that. And another thing, note real here, kind of on the topic, when you disassemble this, you probably need to do it inside of a plastic bag, because everything is under spring tension, and if you're not careful, it will go flying on you. So put it inside a plastic bag, put your hand in there, and start taking it apart in there. If it goes flying, it just hits the bag and stays right there. So, you know, got that little, you know, trick off of the forums from some guys that had to do it before, so passing it on to you. So when you got the spring in there and you're ready to assemble this side, put this pin that this pawl is going to be pivoting on, you know, in there to where it's not all the way down, but in there like you're going to put the pawl in place, and then take the other ball on the very tip of your needle nose, it's extremely small. I mean, you have no idea how small that is and how small on the 1/4 inch it is, which 1/4 inch was ridiculous. But I'll tell you this, after I learned this trick, it went real easy when I redid the 1/4 versus the 3/8 that I've messed with for I don't know how long. So put the ball on the end, you know, holding it on the end with your needle nose, and put it into your grease, and then slowly put it on the very end of that spring. And if you're holding it like this, that grease will hold it on the end of that spring. And then very carefully, you have that pin in place. Slowly put the pawl on there till it feels like it's actuating with the spring tension and the check ball on the back of the pawl where the detent is. And then go ahead, once you're lined up with the hole, go ahead and put the pin all the way in. And for me, that's what did it. And that makes it once it's in those detents, and you can kind of see, I don't know how well you can see it, but you can kind of see the ball back there. Once it's in those detents, it stays in those detents. So that made it a lot easier for me to put it back together, and I'm just passing that on to you. So there, the pawls are lubed up, and or maybe I haven't lubed them up yet. I'll have to go back over that. And then go ahead and get these gears in here just a little bit. Any excess, you just wipe right off and make sure those gears are done real well. I'm going to check these pawls. I don't think I did them. If I did, I'm not going to put a lot on there. Okay, there's one. There's two. There's three. And there's four. A bit much on that one. Okay, so we're ready for reassembly now. Depress those and it clicks into place. So there it is, and they're nice and centered, and pull on it and it's in place, and go ahead and select it back and forth. There, it's working. And now here we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's nice. That's nice. That's just as nice as the 1/2 inch was. And then your disconnect right there, and yeah, so that's looking good. That's sounding good. That's a whole lot cleaner than it was, even though a lot of the chrome's gone. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the 1/4 inch off camera, but there is the disassembly, lubrication, and reassembly of the Easco designed round head fine tooth ratchets. And this kind of goes for any of those made by them for Napa, Craftsman, Armstrong, Allen, KD, you name it. So thanks for watching.